ChatGPT Plus is free for college students through May. Here's the thing. You've got a lot to do between now and then. Studying for finals, writing papers, trying to keep your life on track. And ChatGPT can help with all of it. It can quiz you for your econ exam, make a study guide from your French notes, plan out your meals and study breaks. It can get really specific on how you like to learn. It can even help you come up with ways to stop procrastinating. So from now until summer break, take advantage of all the ways ChatGPT can make your life easier. Restrictions apply.
Da, 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 da. You sound insane. You realize that? Yeah. The whole world gone crazy. Are you serious? Ladies and germs. It's showtime.
Hey, main feed, Mam Fam, and VIPs. Welcome in to a double dose of the Mad About Movies podcast this week. I guess part one of a double dose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we bring in, there's so much going on in film that we just have to double up. There's just so many movies, so much content, and we just gotta keep cranking out the eps, so just keep up.
You say that sarcastically, but this is maybe the first time since, I don't know, pre-COVID that we've done new movies, maybe? That were kind of wide release originally at this time?
Don't know what COVID is. I assume it's an alien film. I don't watch the news.
You've just heard the talk.
I've heard the term come up. Yeah, we did this, and we had Defy Bloods last week. It's kind of feeling like a normal show again, which is at least for the time being kind of nice.
Yeah,
we don't have to do Theodore Rex. We don't have to do.
We didn't have. I mean, we did kind of have to.
No, you held me at gunpoint. And said we're doing Theodore Rex. So
that's my fault. You can only use that card like a couple times in life, probably.
Yeah.
When your life depends on something, it's like, dude, just trust me, man. I owe you one.
Put the gun away.
And you're absolutely right. And Brian is doing a little Artemis Fowl talk, which is the Disney Plus version of the release schedule. So
we're dividing and conquering, as the kids say. I don't know. The kids are really into Risk. But we're dividing and conquering. So Kent and I are here. Brian's over there doing some Artemis, which will be released at some point too. And we got King of Staten and today, and who knows what's next. A whole world awaits us.
Even we don't know.
Big on-demand release. Hamilton?
Hamilton is around the 4th of July, so I guess that would be about a week or so from now.
Is that a movie? Do we review that like a movie? Is it
I want to. I've never seen it. I've never seen the full thing. I've heard the songs. I've never seen the...
Yeah, me too. I just don't know if it's a movie. Like, do you critique it like a movie, or do we... if it's a film stage show, that's kind of going to be hard to do. But
if it's in demand, hey, I guess we'll be the ones covering
content,
it.
Right?
You know what?
Amen.
If people want the episode, definitely tweet us, and we'll make it happen. That's our guarantee. All right,
you're going to like the way we sound. I guarantee it.
We are the Staten Island side of the conversation, and this is a Judd Apatow movie. Richard and I are familiar with the Judd Apatow conversation on the show. I feel like you and I have met multiple times to discuss him, something surrounding him, a movie he did, produced, whatever.
Totally.
But it's always a fun one.
Yeah. 5 years since Trainwreck. Crazy.
Yeah.
His last theatrical. Not that this was theatrical, but it was intended to be fictional theatrical comedy. So Trainwreck, which was crazy. Time flies.
He did do the Gary Shandling doc in between those, so I guess...
And the Avett Brothers one, too.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. Did you see that one?
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good documentarian.
He is.
He's a very versatile filmmaker. We'll get into our laudatory praise and our qualms with him, I'm sure, shortly. But he is, I would say, kind of underrated in his versatility. I'll give him that.
Yeah, 100%. I feel like he can
make movies that are too long in any genre, is my point.
Yeah. And to that subject, if he's going to go long, why not go out full drama? Because, I feel like for him to make the leap to like a Marvel movie or like sci-fi, like a really lengthy sci-fi movie would be kind of weird. But to make a lengthy drama would be something I would watch from him.
Yeah, or just go back to the Freaks and Geeks world they did with Paul Feig or Undeclared, and maybe just do like a 13 episode Netflix show. Like, you clearly want to make something that's 13 hours long. Do it in a format that's conducive to that.
Yeah, he did that show Love for Netflix.
Yes.
Right off the bat.
Girls, I guess. Girls to an extent too. He was involved in it, at least as a producer, yeah.
And I think Love lasted 3 seasons, or was maybe 6 episodes per season, something like that. It was short. It was short, and it ended pretty quick. I wish they had done more of that. I actually liked it. I thought that was a good
I never
good
saw
medium
it,
for him.
Mrs. Barden, big fan of Love.
Yeah, you never saw it?
I never saw it, yeah. You know me, I'm pretty picky about my TV, and it was close to making the cut, but you know, man, there's Top Chefs to watch. Cranking out through 2011's Texas season right now, you know? Priorities.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of Netflix, I was having this thought as I was preparing for this episode and watching the movie. Netflix seems like a perfect destination for Judd Apatow. Does it not? Maybe doing like a 5-movie deal with Netflix. I feel like his are the perfect Friday night, what's new on Netflix kind of movies. And he can pull the stars. He has the credibility, and they can pay him out the ass out up front, you know, and go that route. To me, that makes more sense than going in on Sandler, which he's pretty love him or hate him, you know, either way. There's a lot of love him, but
I think their algorithm shows that kids just watch the crap out of the Sandler movies. I don't know if they would watch the Apatow movies, but maybe they would. But yeah, you're right. Your point is totally fair in that, you know, when you watch this, you go, hey, there's really nothing lost in not watching this movie in the theater.
Exactly.
You know, and that's not a shot. I mean, it's really not.
No.
Like, this is 40, would have been fine on Netflix.
They're the perfect rewatchable on a Friday night with your wife, you're eating dinner, or you're just rewatching it with while friends are over for something to that nobody's seen or whatever. I think they're the perfect weekend movies, you know, regardless of whether you're at a theater. I mean, of course it translates better at a theater, but I think if I was Netflix, that would be, or HBO Max or whoever's trying to ink these guys to these exclusive deals for original content. He would be a top, I guess, choice of mine if I was in the executive making the decision. I'd go after Judd.
Uwe Boll would be probably a 1-2 for you. The good Dr. Uwe Boll.
The UBCU is what I've been waiting for. The Uwe Boll cinematic universe. And it's never happened. And as soon as that happens, then I'll make my case. But yeah.
Well, Alone in the Dark, you know.
It was a cinematic universe in and of itself. You're right.
Was.
Yes,
it was.
You're right. You are absolutely right about that.
We have some cinematic universe news. Are we going to do a separate app for that? How's that work?
We will do separate app for the cinematic universes.
Sorry,
unless you're talking Judd Apatow cinematic universe. And let me tell you,
I am.
This guy's resume, when you look basically from Cable Guy on, in terms of stuff he wrote or was involved in, maybe Heavyweights, if you want to go back that far.
Or Larry Sanders, too.
Yeah, Larry Sanders. He's got quite the comedic filmography going here. And stuff, you know, not only stuff he's directed, but produced or written as well. It's when you add it all up.
He was so well mentored by Shandling, and he's really done a great job. I applaud him for paying that forward in a big way. I think he's been a great mentor too. Not only has he made some really cool, maybe not total movies, but really cool parts of movies, but he's really brought out the best in a whole generation of film comedians, which now is kind of like not a medium that exists anymore. I think because of, as you said, Netflix and things like that, there's so many funny shows that the 2-hour kind of quick comedic story is now in different forms because that's where the money is. You can't, it's not a viable model anymore, which is a bummer because, you know, this movie wasn't lost because this movie's funny in parts, but is mostly kind of a dramedy. And thus, you can just kind of watch it alone. But like a big, loud, funny comedy like Knocked Up or Superbad, there's something so great about watching that with 200 other people, I always think. And like horror movies, there's something to that. And that's a bummer that's probably lost. And that's a pre-COVID thing that was dying anyway. But certainly now, I think if movies like this prove the model, kind of everything will probably on the other than big popcorn stuff will go to streaming, which is sad on some levels, but also convenient on some levels because it's fun to sit in your living room and watch comedies.
Right? Yeah, I guess it's the ultimate test. I think most people in the industry probably feel like it's eventually going to get there. Like eventually, everything's going to be on demand, same day. You're going to be able to watch it at home, but nobody ever wants to take that leap. But this has made everybody take that leap. The coronavirus situation, unfortunately, industry wise, they've shifted to the on demand day and date type stuff, and it's worked out really well so far. I think the reception's been pretty good. These movies have been fairly well reviewed outside of the Capones of the world, but yeah, I think everybody's kind of been happy with the end result. I haven't heard of a director releasing their movie this way so far that's come out against it after the fact and been like, it ruined the movie having it on demand. Nobody got to see it or talk about it. Totally. I think it's been great.
And I think, not to get too much into nuts and bolts because we want to talk about the film, but
let's get into it. That kind of stuff. I think the real big, even the Oscar films, I think will be on demand here soon. I think it's the Top Guns and the Avengers of the world that we will demand theaters, and maybe it's a thing where cities have 3 or 4 big screen giant theaters and you go with 500 people and watch something. But, the little watching something with 20 other people is gone. I don't know, but let's get into the movie. Yeah. So the King of Staten Island, some of his movies feel really inspired, and this one feels inspired by just Judd Apatow knowing Pete Davidson and being inspired by knowing him. And that's pretty much inspiration for the movie. It's him wanting to work with him and use some of his personal life in terms of the screenplay, in terms of the plotting and things like that. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it. And he said, hey, I'll help you. I probably was like, I'll help you out on this because I want you to have a medium to show what you can do. Yeah. And I'm not sure the average comedic filmmaker would know how to use Pete Davidson in a natural way without it feeling weird. Because even on SNL, unless he's being himself on there, it feels kind of weird when he's trying to do impressions or whatever. It's just not his thing. He would say that. And so
totally.
Judd, I think, is a good medium for him. I think he fits well in that world, if that makes sense. The Judd's
totally
world.
Does. And that seems to be, since the beginning, at least since the early 2000s, Judd's kind of modus operandi of, I see someone funny, he's really good at identifying a talented young, or not even necessarily young, but a talented kind of not quite reached potential comedian or comedic actor, like he did with Steve Carell. He literally went to Steve Carell on the set of Anchorman and was like, what's your movie idea? You're killing it right now on the set with these improvs. I know you have a movie idea. What is it? How can we make it? And it was like The 40-Year-Old Virgin. And obviously, Amy, and then he wrote Knocked Up. I think that's kind of more of a Judd idea. Wrote This Is 40 and Funny People. Those are things. But then he goes back and is like, hey, Amy Schumer's funny. What's your movie idea? How do we make it? I'll help you. I'll guide you. I know the math of a comedy screenplay, so let's ingest your kind of art into it. And I actually really like Trainwreck. I think Trainwreck's a better movie than this one. On the whole, but that's not I'm not going to be super harsh on this one because this movie certainly has its moments, but that seems to be Judd's thing, is like kind of finding people and kind of sherping them along through like, here's how we're going to write. We're going to take whatever you've got magic in a bottle. Let's make it into a screenplay. Let's stretch it over 2 hours. And it's actually kind of a cool thing to do, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And I'm a big Apatow fan. I just wanted to say that. I don't know if I'd said that yet this episode, but I love Judd. I'm all in on his writing and kind of his perspective on comedy. I think is fun, and he doesn't overstep his boundaries of trying to put himself in his own things, and he kind of like knows his influence and how he can use it and still kind of be out there. And really have enjoyed most of his filmography for the most part. Yeah, there's a couple of ups and downs, but I mean, when you look at look at what he's just had his hand in. I mean, when you look at Forgetting Sarah Marshall, and you look at the Step Brothers, and Talladega Nights, and Walk Hard, and even like something like The Big Sick with Kumail and Pop Star, those types of movies that he's at least guided, if not directed. Man, yeah, big fan of him. And Bridesmaids as well. We've talked Superbad on the show before. He had influence on that too as a producer. So yeah, man. King of Staten Island though. I don't know your thoughts on Pete. I don't know if we've talked a lot of Pete, but like I said, I think there's very few things, if you were to use him in a movie, that you could do that would work for him. And that's no shot on him. I've seen him do stand up before, and I thought it was pretty funny, man. I definitely don't think SNL being on network television is a great medium for him to show what he can do. He kind of has to be unfiltered and be raw, and it's kind of like the young Eddie Murphy thing, where it's like Eddie Murphy couldn't be on NBC doing those stand-up routines. He just couldn't do it.
But he also, Eddie Murphy had the second gear of, I can do crazy character. I can kind of be Dave Carvey. Yeah, and Pete doesn't have that. That's not a knock at Pete. I mean, that's what makes Eddie Murphy literally a unicorn. And that's not, but Pete does. You're right. Pete has the stand-up kind of Eddie thing, the raw thing, but he doesn't have the Gumby.
No, not at all. No. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess I'm undecided on Pete. Like,
same.
I think this is a step in the right direction.
He's made me laugh, though. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I wouldn't consider myself a super fan. Also, like, it's one of those things, where we go, oh my God, we're old. He's 26. He's probably, if we were 26 or 24, this would be a much more of our guy. Kind of like how Seth Rogen or Jonah Hill or those guys were kind of our guys because they were our age and their references were our references. And as they kind of grew to themselves and both grew into kind of brilliant comedic performers and actors, we kind of like gave them the benefit of the doubt that, you and I in our 30s are not going to give Pete Davidson just because we don't have that cultural connection with him. But I will say he can be very funny. He's made me laugh several times, which is more than most of the people on SNL these days. And I agree with you, though. It's not the best format for him. It's kind of like a stubborn Lauren thing where it's like, we found this guy, we signed him to a 7-year deal. You're stuck here forever. You're going to figure out a way to use you, and they never really have. So it can be frustrating because you're like, this guy's definitely more talented than this, but it's not the right use for him. But now he's kind of stuck here. It'll be really interesting. This is a cool first step for him, and really smart and really great by Apatow. And I think actually Amy Schumer recommended this relationship. By the way,
yeah, he was in Trainwreck actually before he was on SNL.
Yeah, he is. And he was like, Amy, who's funny? And she was like, there's this 21-year-old that's like way funnier than he should be, or whatever. And there's something there. I think there's something there that, especially comedy, people really recognize. And it'll be interesting to see over the. And then it kind of went through a dark place with Pete's personal life for a while, and then he kind of became this Ben Affleckian tabloid, who's he dating this week piece. And that's whatever. I mean, he's 24 and dating beautiful women. I mean, go with God, brother. But I think it'll be interesting to see in the next 5 years what he does off of this, because he seemed really into this and really invested in this, and his promotion of this has been really impressive. He seems really behind this, and I hope that it spurs kind of a cool. He's definitely talented enough to have a run, and I would like to see that run.
Absolutely. I mean, I think he just needs more skins on the wall,
Totally, and not to keep comparing it to Schumer, but Trainwreck seemed like the culmination of an Amy Schumer run. She had that show, she had a ton of stand-up stuff, and it was like, okay, we're going to take all that, we're going to put it in 2 hours and have that persona do a movie, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas this feels more like the beginning of a
that's true.
Run for him. It's a little bit different. Not better or worse, just different.
Yeah, absolutely. And so not only do you have Pete Davidson in this movie, you've got Marissa Tomei, who was really good in this.
She's good in everything, dude.
She is good in everything, but she was wonderful in this. Really standout performance from her. And then you've got Bill Burr in this
who I love, man.
I love Bill Burr in this like borderline like funny a-hole.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird, like you hate the guy, but you admit he's funny. So to play it that way is pretty difficult for him. I'm sure.
I think he's one of the best stand-ups going right now. He's kind of he's hit a late peak. That happens sometimes with comedians. Doesn't always happen when you're 32. But man, Bill Burr's last few specials, holy cow, man. He's so funny to me. Kills me.
Yes, yeah, he's fantastic. And so also in the movie, you've got Judd Apatow, the daughter of Judd, as his sister. And also we've got Moises Arias, Lou Wilson, Ricky Velez as his some of his friends. And
they're funny.
I liked his friends group a lot. Yeah, I think that was probably my favorite subplot of the movie was his little triumvirate of friends.
I liked, for sure. And Pam Adlon's cool in this too, in a small part. Who I love Pam Adlon. Yeah, it was
very limited, but that was she's always good to see her. You know,
I love her, man.
You know, I thought, you know, after what happened with Louis and all that,
I know
her show like went off the air because of all that. I think
no, it's still Better Things is still on. It just kind of they had to kind of kick Louis off of it.
Oh.
And it's all hers now. But the last season of it was really good.
Yeah.
They just had one. And this year is 2020. They did one. Started in March. She's like a really undersung, really talented person. Pam Adlon rules. Her daughter's an actress now too. She was on some bad CBS sitcom. It was always kind of cool to see that stuff carry through. And then you feel terribly old. Because I remember when Pam Adlon was like this really cool indie, you know, she's Bobby Hill and she's this like cool stand-up person. It's like, oh, well, her daughter's 25 now and is doing shows. Well, you're ancient, Richard.
Story of my life.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So I mentioned that the movie was going to draw on personal aspects of Pete's life. I expected that going in.
Sure.
What do you think about not talking about 9/11 at all? I guess that's the elephant in the room with this movie. That's what I thought it was going to be going into it.
Same.
Like his dad died 9/11 like he really did in real life. Why you think that's just Judd asking him, hey, do you feel comfortable doing it? That he'd be like, I'm good with my dad dying, but not in 9/11. Because he didn't want that to be the only question about the movie, maybe. Because that's the only question anyway. One of the first questions he gets all the time when he gets interviewed is that. I mean, it's unavoidable. But I was surprised that they didn't address it in any way. Not that I expected that and was going to be upset, but I thought there was going to be more of an interest in that level of his personality that we didn't really see a lot of in this movie.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I was surprised by that too. I think, you know, I kind of expected, and it did take place in that world. And as I got away from the film, I kind of respected it more. But like, you know, that kind of like, there's no better way to express it. I think you'll know what I mean. But that kind of like Jets fan version of New York, where it's like the working guy. You know, we see so much like the fancy Manhattan version of New York City, and that's in every show we see. And then maybe Brooklyn, because it's like the hipster, but there's this whole part of New York that makes the city go that's like, you know, men and women that like work hard and are normal people. And you know, they're always Jets fans, which is funny. And this movie, certainly with the firefighter thing, I was like, okay, this is going to take place in this world. And for those people, 9/11 is even more impactful because they lost so many people. They all were involved in it. They were the first responders and these, I mean, they're so heroic and they're these working class, awesome, kind of humble people. And Pete Davidson's real life dad is part of that. I thought it would really explore that world using 9/11 as this like, wow, this heroic thing. And it didn't really, exploit's not the right word, because I would have been fine with it if they had done it, but it didn't use that as much as I thought, or at all. And I going away from it, kind of appreciated that separation between the character Pete, or the character Scott, and Pete in real life. Like, I thought that was smart to kind of have these, you know, still tell the emotional story of losing one's father, but not the exact beats going through. I thought that was coming away from it actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it was just unexpected.
I was legit surprised.
Yeah, so it does get personal. There's a lot of stuff with his family, with his little sister going to college, with he's got a girlfriend or on and off girlfriend. But the main, I guess, plot of the movie is him navigating this relationship with Bill Burr, who's his new dad that he doesn't really want in the picture because of the way it started out. What did you think of the scene of them tattooing the kid in the park?
Very Pete Davidson, very like tattoo culture of tattoos were a bigger part of this movie than 9/11, which was surprising. But it was very very cool, and I like the that whole kind of like, I don't really know, there's that kind of party boy tattoo aesthetic. But this kind of presented it more in like a, I'm so bored I'm going to get tattoos aesthetic, which I thought was cool.
It was funny that I actually had to ask my wife while watching this if those were Pete Davidson's real tattoos at one point, because some of them just look like, you said, so spur of the moment that you couldn't possibly have thought about actually getting that when you did, because there's so many different styles that he's got going on. It's just aesthetically, it looks like somebody just walk up to him like a makeup person and just did a bunch of temporary tattoos like all over his body. It looks like that.
Yeah, that's the real kind of look now with tattoos. When we were younger, it was a lot.
It's
more
not about the
cohesive.
big piece, got an arm piece,
Sure.
And I have tattoos. I know that it's a thing where, you can get a whole theme or not, but yeah, it's definitely different now.
Tramp stamp.
You did. And that was before the show, which was odd, but works now.
Well, it worked out. Did I tell you I had a dream? I don't think I told you this, Kent. It's funny to tell you on the show. I had a dream like 2 weeks ago. I bought a new car. And I got custom plates that said Mam Fam, and I thought they were very cool. And I was like, and you guys were kind of like, yeah, that's fine, Richard.
We're like, you're paying for it, right, Richard?
Yeah, I was like, yeah, it's like $200 every 5 years. It's no big deal. And they were black plates that said Mam Fam in white letters, and I was like, they're awesome. And then I woke up and I was like, no, they're not. That's the lamest thing ever. But you know how sometimes like your dream self is different, has like a different opinions on things than your real self? I woke up and was horribly embarrassed, told my wife, and she was like, yeah, you're a huge loser. Never get Mam Fam plates. But we'll see.
Yeah, no.
KFBR 392, though. That's a whole different story.
Yeah, or Groobs 1.
Yeah.
That's his plate. So, what do you think of Scott/Pete's idea in the movie of Ruby Tattoos Days? The restaurant/tattoo parlor. Would you attend such place hypothetically if it were to exist?
Yeah, I'm not a big tattoo guy. I have one, and I'm cool with it. And but I don't, I like to kind of, I can be impulsive, so I would probably stay away from such an establishment. Because you get the onion ring tower with the 2 dipping sauces that looks very phallic. I don't know if you've ever seen that at Ruby Tuesdays, but it's a very phallic piece of food.
Can't say I've gone to Ruby Tuesdays.
I'll send you a pic of their onion rings.
I have gone to Ruby Tuesdays. I'm just not recently. Like I can't remember the.
Oh, it's been a long time for me, but it's
been maybe 7 or 8 years, probably. Since the
longer
show,
for me, but I remember the onion rings. I'll show you the presentation is a bit. Maybe it's not Ruby Tuesdays. Maybe I'm thinking of something else, but. There's one of those chain burger places does a tower of onion rings where they kind of form a head and then 2 big sauces at the base. You go, whose idea was this? Sorry.
Is that they would serve that at Ruby Tattoos Days? So that's what you're saying?
So I mean, maybe that could be my tattoo though. Maybe up my spine.
Oh, the onion ring tower. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Kind of bring it all home, right?
Yeah. Do you think that place could succeed though, regardless of whether you would go there? Do you think there's a market for? I'm going to go eat a mediocre Applebee's style burger while someone is getting tattooed less than 20 feet away from me.
I would. because I love, me, I love atmosphere. I'm all about the
it's chock full.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like really bringing it to the. I like a good show. I'll eat. That's why I exclusively eat at medieval times. I like because I'm
only Chuck E. Cheese, but only Showbiz Pizza Chuck E. Cheese's, not the converted ones. So I only go for the Rock-afire explosion, and I catch the afternoon set over. You ever
go to a good steakhouse or good roast place where you're getting like a really good piece of meat, maybe a side, everything's kind of cooked to perfection. You got a nice maybe glass of wine or a beer, and you go, you know what this could use is more tournament. And that's why I eat it. Exclusively eat at medieval times, because that's where I can also get tournament. It always says dinner and tournament. I always laugh about that. Like, a lot of places
I'm not here
dinner.
for the dinner. I'm just here for the tournament. I'm just tournamenting right now.
Right.
That is
I'm sending you this onion ring tower right now.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. So
good looking out. So back to the movie. What did you think about Bel Powley or Powley and Steve Buscemi we didn't talk about? What did you think about those kind of supporting characters?
Gosh, Buscemi, man.
What an actor.
What a treasure. What an American treasure.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good to see him pop up in something like this. I like what's the guy's name from the American Vandal show that was in this, that plays one of the firefighters? He's good. Savage was the character's name.
Yeah, Jimmy Tatro or something like that.
Yeah, he is. He's very funny.
Yeah, he was funny in this. I wasn't, other than American Vandal, I was I know he was in some other stuff, and he's a YouTube guy, but I wasn't super familiar with his oeuvre.
Jimmy Tatro, that's his name. I didn't know his name.
Yeah, he was good.
As well as him, big supporting cast. I always like to see cameos and stuff in these types of movies. Remember when Eminem shows up in Funny People? I was thinking about that.
One of the funnier. That's actually really funny when that whole part's too long. When he gets
Ray
into
Romano.
it with Ray Romano, is really funny. That's really funny.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Gosh, that's one of the better Apatow scenes, and there are a lot.
Yeah, I have to say on Apatow, I'm a fan, man, and it's probably my age. I've said this before on the show, but I was 19, 20 when Knocked Up and Superbad came out, and Knocked Up specifically, I'm more of a Superbad fan now, but I remember looking at Knocked Up and going, oh my God, finally, a movie that sounds like my friends and I sound. And we weren't that funny or that vulgar, but the rhythm of which they spoke was, how my friends and I talked to each other, and it was oh my God, he cracked it. This guy. So, I'm a huge Apatow guy. I'll always be a fan of his, because it's it's like when you a band that kind of breaks your brain or whatever. He was that for me. I remember that. It's one of my favorite feelings ever. I walked out of Knocked Up, and I was I would walk into that again right now, because I felt seen, to use the modern parlance of that's a movie that will be of my generation. Even though I was a little young, it was spot on, And then Superbad just took that to 11. But yeah, and so I always really love him for that, and I really have liked most of what he's done since. And Funny People, and this is 40 Man Funny People, as we've said many times on the show, there's such a good movie in there somewhere. Gosh, I would love you to get a hold of that in the edit, Kent, and chop that thing down and get all the raw footage. It's
2.5 hours.
Yeah, and it's
I'm not sure if it's the extended version, but
it's not the right 2.5 hours, if that makes sense. I know they shot 4 hours, and I think they picked the wrong 2.5. There's a different narrative in there. But man, Sandler is so good in that movie. It's the B story is better than the A story. It's a weird movie, but on the whole, has a lot of good parts to it. And then this is 40. Trainwreck. I really like Trainwreck, and especially as we get away from it, it might be his tightest film, in terms of pure comedy. But pardon me, I'm so I have the hiccups for some reason. Excuse me, but this one was really good. I really enjoyed this movie. I am a little tired of the Apatow kind of trope of like, troubled person, montages, makes good, gets better. Troubled person was moral all along, but then discovered how to communicate their morality to an acceptable way of the other characters. And then we all hug. That is all of his movies. And I get that. And that can be repetitive, but we all enjoy it. It's a formula that works.
Yeah. I mean, he kind of knows what he is good at, and he kind of stays in his lane. And I think the results are always pretty consistent. I think his batting average is pretty high, if you will. And this was a good one. I liked when Pete or Scott starts becoming a waiter or busboy. I liked that arc in the movie. And his girlfriend shows up with another guy and is like trying to make him jealous while he's working and stuff. I liked that scene a lot.
That was funny.
I like the fight with Bill Burr, of course. I think that's the standout scene in the movie, is where they throws him in the pool and stuff. And they're arguing about betting on the Jets.
Above ground pool, always a use.
Yeah.
Always
and he does like a suplex into the above ground pool, which is pretty funny. But gosh, that was a really good scene, man. That was classic. No. That'll go on the highlight reel.
I'm interested in knowing the what Bill Burr does next, because he's done some cool stuff. He did that.
He was on the Mandalorian.
Hugh Jackman movie. Yeah, Mandalorian. He did the Hugh Jackman, Gary, what's his name? Political movie. He's got F is for Family. He's got a bunch of stuff. He's kind of like really built a cool. And then obviously every stand-up special he does right now is like totally killer. So really interested to see what the next 5 years of his looks like, because he's man is he funny.
So then there's a sequence where Pete and family go to college to see his sister, like I guess a visitation weekend or something like that. And he parties with her. There's some memorable moments there, some more heartfelt moments there. And then they go immediately to a pharmacy robbery with his friends. So it kind of took a weird turn there, like a very harsh turn. Stuff. Yeah. That was weird. That was like, that felt like a note of, we need drama at the end of Act 2. Right. Beginning of Act, right? That felt like a story note more than truth in the script, because it was kind of out of it for all those characters, but it did create the, adrenaline. Pete's gonna be like, the one true thing about that movie was we actually did rob a pharmacy, and I was the lookout. We're gonna look like the biggest. I liked there's some good insult comedy in the movie, as there usually is with Apatow. But I loved
and
the guy
too.
that called,
he's great on roast.
Yeah, the guy that called Scott an anorexic panda. He said it looked like an anorexic panda with his dark eyes. I died at that. I thought that was hilarious. And of course, the betting on the Jets joke is really funny too. But yeah, man, it kind of takes a while to get going, and then it could have been trimmed down towards the end a little bit. But man, like I said, the batting average is high, man. It's like, you're with one of these movies on a date night, you're going to see at least a B to a B plus, kind of at the worst. And that's never a bad thing these days, man.
No, I totally agree. And, he like I said, it is a little formulaic at this point. There's been several of those films now, but sometimes formulas work.
Right.
When you're in Excel and you need sum, you do equals sum and then some parentheses of the cells you want, because it works. And sometimes that's fine.
It's cool to see him direct something again, because he could, which is a business in and of itself, just his production company, he could just sit back and break in doing producing jobs and throwing his name on stuff and make a lot. It's cool to see him actually, get behind the camera and put something on film is always good to see.
Yeah, so. He does. One thing I'll say about him just technically is he's done his movies are always, I know he worked with I can't think, it's Robert Elswit, isn't it, that did the cinematography on this? His movies are always shot better than they need to be. Right?
They always look great.
He has that kind of Woody Allen thing where hopefully not all the Woody Allen things.
Oh God.
But he has that, they look luxe and good. And this one had a really, really cool style to it.
Yeah, it did. It was really well done. So, where are you kind of coming out of this? Like, final thoughts before we hit grades?
Yeah, it was a different film than I anticipated it being, but it was also very within the Apatow ethos. I liked it. I came out of it liking it. It's not going to be in my top. If it's in my top 10 of the year, then this is a very poor year, and there is a pandemic going around, so maybe it will be. But so right now it's in my top of the year, top 5 probably, because there's been no movies. But I hope that it gets knocked down. But I found this to be very, very engrossing and likable, and Davidson continues to be sort of flummoxing, and that's not really a word, but he is interesting. He's not always good, but he's always interesting. In this movie, he's mostly good, and that's encouraging, because I do hope that he kind of figures it out, because I think he is funny. And you know what? You know me, man. I forgive everything for smart and funny. I don't care. I don't care about anything else. If you're smart and funny, I'm in you. And I hope that he continues to be that.
That's why you're still such a big Spacey fan.
Yeah, right.
Smart and funny. It trumps everything. No, I'm just kidding. God. I was going to say Woody Allen, but you already made that joke like 10 seconds ago. So
those Christmas videos every year where he does the Frank Underwood voice
for the
80th time in a row. Those are hilarious.
Those need to stop. Those give me nightmares.
Of course they need to stop. They need to never have started, but they exist. And they've now become one of my favorite Christmas traditions, to be weirded out by the space. Man, what a time!
All right, well,
what about you, man? What were your kind of summation thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of hit on it when I said it's good to see Judd actually make a movie again. In terms of Pete and co, I don't know if his voice is as a writer, or if his long term, or if he's going to just go do stand up, or if he's got multiple movies, kind of like a Seth Rogen run in him, where he can just put him in some different scenarios and let him do his thing.
I could guess, I would love to see like a killer hour out of him, like a Netflix hour.
He has one,
or HBO. I know. That didn't hit it for me. It was fine. I think he's better than that hour. If I were to see him fully realized, I think that is when we go, oh, okay. If he's ever going to be like, man, Pete Davidson was a great, I do think it comes from stand-up, is my point, not film. But he's not bad in this whatsoever. But I would lean more towards that than this.
Yeah, I would bet on him there too.
I feel like this is maybe the only story he has to tell thus far.
We shall see.
In it.
Let's hit a grade on this one.
Yeah. I'm
going to go a B+ on this one.
Nice.
What about you?
I'm slightly lower. I'm just going to go with the straight up B.
There you go.
Hey, and we'll take that right now in 2020. Oh boy, a B? Can we get a B a week?
Yeah, I'll rewatch this one multiple times. His movies are very rewatchable. I'll give him that.
Totally.
There's very few that I haven't revisited multiple times. So he's got that going for him. Thank you, Judd. Keep it up, and look forward to seeing what you do next. All right, Richard. This one was fun. I'm excited to hear Artemis Fowl talk. I heard it's not a great movie. And I'm always interested to hear what Brian thinks about not great movies. So I'm excited to hear that episode. Hope you are too. Thank you, VIPs. I'm excited to do our AMA with you very soon, which will be dropping, I guess, this week, the second part of our AMA that we do for you every single month. If you want that, it's madaboutmoviespodcast.com/VIP. And it's been a great time over there. Always with the Discord. And, only one song plays there, and it's Pony. And that's all you need to know about how we go down.
Jump on it.
VIP.
Let's do it.
All right, Richard. It's been good. Where can we find you online?
It's fun. You can find me at Richard Barton on all the social media. You can find me at the Mad About Movies Podcast website, madaboutmoviespodcast.com. You can also find me in our Discord, which you can hit up and get the aforementioned VIP episode, as well as other extra episodes at Mad About Movies Podcast/VIP. Well, all three of us are in that Discord all day, as we like to say, and talking to everyone, talking about movies, talking about culture, talking about food, whatever we want. And it's really a fun community over there. Where can I find you?
If you want more onion ring talk, go to the Discord.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
We'll show you the pic of the onion ring. You can find me on all social at King Garrison, and yeah, in the Discord. Join us there. It's been a lot of fun. Hopefully, we'll see you back at the cinema very soon. Goodbye.
Hey, baby, I hear the blues are calling. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs. And maybe I seem a bit confused. Yeah, maybe, but I got you pegged. But I don't know what to do with those tossed salads and scrambled eggs. They're calling again. Scrambled eggs all over my face.
They're making me yah-yah. Tossed salads and scrambled eggs.
They're calling again.